Let's go to Ohio now. Mo Egger joins us. Isn't it nice when the guy operating the show is paying attention, Mo? Have you ever had moments when he's not or she's not? I'm sure you have.
You know, the moments where he or she has been paying attention have been few and far between. But frankly, if you've listened to our show, can you blame them? By the way, is that your boat? Is that your ride? Is that your boat?
Nah, working on it. That's not mine. It's a friend's.
You have a bigger boat than that, huh?
How about that?
Yeah, exactly. It's on the way. Yes, hey, I did wake up this morning, Mo, and say, you know what? Breaking news. I have absolutely zero complaints. Zero complaints. It's a nice way to be. Neither did the Bengals coming out of Week 7 because they didn't play, right?
Well, if a bye week can go poorly, I think it did for the Bengals because everybody in their division won, and when you're looking up at everybody else, you're hoping for help, and you thought maybe you could get it from the Detroit Lions. Instead, they were non-competitive. You thought you were going to get it from the Indianapolis Colts, and lo and behold, the Browns scored in the last half minute, and I thought they were going to get it from the LA Rams. Unfortunately, I forgot that the Rams have no home field advantage. It sounded and felt like the Steelers' postseason game, and that defense does just enough to give them a shot. Sean McVay burns through his timeout, so he can't challenge a bad spot. And everybody else in the AFC North wins, and now the Bengals have to go to San Francisco. Their schedule is about to get a lot more difficult, but they are healthy, and they have won 3 out of 4.
Yeah, well, you knew. Did we not before this season? You probably don't remember because you talk so much NFL. It might have got lost in the wash, but didn't we kind of agree the AFC North might be the toughest division in the National Football League, and that has kind of proven to be the case?
Yes. I think the scary thing is, Baltimore is where they are, and up until yesterday really hadn't performed at the level that everybody expected offensively. And I think the scary thing about him from a Cincinnati perspective is they're going to get healthier. Offensively, they're going to get better. Now, they were terrific yesterday, but you've lost a game head-to-head against them, and so they've got some ground to make up, and to do it head-to-head, they're going to have to win in Baltimore on a short week, a week from, 2 weeks from Thursday. So it's about to get difficult. Yeah, look, we knew that to win this division, you were going to have to survive a gauntlet of just intra-divisional opponents. I think the good news, though, is this. I still don't look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and see a team that's capable of winning 10 games. Week to week, are they tough to play? Yes, it's a Mike Tomlin coach team. The Browns, as terrific as they are defensively, and Myles Garrett yesterday pretty much defensively did it all by himself. He was fantastic. Their quarterback situation still remains weird, and they don't have their best player, Nick Chubb. Now, they can still run the ball effectively. Former UC Bearcat Jerome Ford carried the mail for them yesterday afternoon. I think the scary team is Baltimore, and I still feel like you are being fair if you believe this division is going to come down to Cincinnati or Baltimore. But right now, the Bengals have a game-and-a-half deficit. Their schedule's about to get tough. They have little margin for error. And I think from a Bengals perspective, Rod, the bigger deal isn't so much what everybody else is doing. It's, can this offense round into form? Because what we know right now is Jamar Chase is great. There's really nothing else offensively the Bengals have been able to hang their hats on.
I'll tell you what, though, unless I've misread this, and tell me if I have, the last couple of years it seemed like Kansas City was on a collision course with the Eagles, and the year before that the 49ers for the Super Bowl. This year I feel like the field is way more wide open than it's been in a long time in both conferences. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think so. There were folks here kind of talking prematurely about the 49ers maybe going undefeated. I think what we have seen is that the top of the NFC is a lot better than people kind of gave it credit for. San Francisco is very good. You saw the Eagles, I think, last night finally start to look like the Eagles that we saw last season. Despite what happened yesterday, Detroit is still a very tough out. I think as well-rounded a team as you might find in the NFC, perhaps with the exception of San Francisco. Seattle is very, very good. I think that the quality and the relative depth in the NFC has stood out relative to kind of how we talked about that the league was one-sided before the year began. And then I think in the AFC, I think we're still trying to figure out, okay, how good really is Miami? They've beaten bad teams. Last night they had a chance to go on the road and stand toe-to-toe with a good team, and they certainly didn't get embarrassed. But how good are they? Can they go on the road and win in the postseason? What do we make of the Buffalo Bills, who I think have played unevenly? I think the scary thing is you talked about the Chiefs. Number one, it feels like Patrick Mahomes is now quarterbacking a team that has a great defense. Kansas City hasn't given up more than 21 points in a game so far this year. They've won 6 straight despite being sort of uneven on offense. Travis Kelce remains great. You know that as the season moves along, and we saw some of it yesterday, that team is going to get better and better offensively, and they're not trying to play catch-up. They've separated themselves from everybody in the pack in the AFC West. They look like a good bet to get home field advantage, and Bengals fans will tell you, having gone there each of the last 2 years for the AFC Championship game, it's not a place you want to have to go and win. And so I think that's kind of the scary thing, that for all the balance we have in the AFC, a Kansas City team that is really spent the first half of the season trying to find its way offensively has lost just one game.
Well, you mentioned the Dolphins, and that's where I'm at. And to be honest, I think they needed a little humbling, and they got it last night. They needed it a few weeks ago in Buffalo, and they got it. Listen, they scored 70 points earlier this year. All I hear about is undeniable their talent, right, and their finesse and all that, but they don't like to get dirty. And you're not going to win anything until you get dirty. And I think the Eagles had a plan for Tyreek Hill last night. You watched the game. They got in his face. Yeah. They were physical on him. This is a team that doesn't like it when the going gets rough. And at some point, it's going to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what has to happen, or what will happen if they have to go on the road in the postseason. And chances are they will have to. I think, they played on a Sunday night. I think it was a Sunday night earlier this year against the Patriots. And say what you want about that team, but they sort of said the same thing. We're going to take Tyreek Hill away, and you saw the Dolphins employ a really well put together, well constructed, well designed power running attack. But that's obviously not how they want to play. And so look, again, they've done a great job of beating up against inferior opponents. I think Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast last night said, Miami had beaten teams that were combined 5-24. I'd have to go back, I guess, and check that math, although far be it for me to question somebody like Chris Collinsworth. But in their 2 most high-profile games, they've lost by double figures. And I think that's going to loom over the season as we talk about whether or not they can legitimately go on the road and beat big boy teams. I think flying under the radar in the AFC, Rod, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think were among the bigger disappointments in the NFL for the first couple of weeks. And here they are at 5-2. They have a lot of weapons on offense. They've played their London games. It's not a very good division. Look, Jacksonville wins a playoff game last year. They stood toe-to-toe for a while against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. The Bengals here play them on a Monday night in early December. I think that game's going to be fascinating. I'm a big Trevor Lawrence guy. And yet it feels like they're just beneath the radar as we discuss Baltimore and the ups and downs of the Bengals and Kansas City and Miami and Buffalo, and even to a degree the Chargers, who are always talked about but never win anything. I think we spend so much time on those teams that here are the Jaguars quite quietly with a very good head coach, a very good quarterback, and a good roster, and it feels like they're starting to put things together.
I'm with you. I love the Jags, too. Hashtag Duval. Mo, always plenty of food for thought. Let's do it again soon. Thank you, brother.
What? Come down. Let me come down and ride around on the boat with you, right? I mean, not,
Anytime.
Just we could broadcast from the boat. You could do your show. I could do my show. And really, there would be no reason for me to leave. I'll pack a cooler. We'll have a great time.
Have I ever acted like I don't want that to happen? Let's put our heads together, Mo.
Let's make it happen. All right. Very good.
All right. The great Mo Egger from ESPN Cincinnati.